Hey guys and girls, welcome to the last, I guess I could say, of what we originally started out calling watching giant deer antlers grow. Welcome to the last video for 2023. We're not going to stop this series. Too many people really enjoy this, including me, but a lot of you are really enjoying it. It's popular on our channel, and it's popular on Facebook and popular on some of the other things that we do. So we're going to continue doing it, but this will be the last one of 23. Look at that. That is a morel archery target, and you can see that we've turned that target around there, but that target is faded out, but still good. Still good. I could send it back over there to them, and they can put me a new cover on it. That's just how good a morel archery target is. You can shoot lots and lots and lots and lots of arrows, and it'll still do really great. But one of the things that's happened here the last 2 or 3 days is I had a couple of days where I just saw buck after buck after buck. The last 2 or 3 or 4 days, I saw almost nothing. Little buddy's been around. I saw TC out here in the yard just a little bit. I saw a buck or two way off out of the distance, but nothing around close. Nothing came to the feeder. And so I thought I'd just here, since we're ending 2023, talk to you a little bit about what's going on this year and talk to you about some of the success and failures that we've had with our program. You know, we get our deer from Adam Hagler up at Hagelin Farms up in Iowa. It's where we started this giant deer introduction into southern Oklahoma, into our ranch here on Twin Eagle Ranch, and we've got about 2,000 acres here. Good portion of it is high fenced, a good portion is not. I'll just set this thing down here and visit for a little bit, but I guess if I could set it level it would help, wouldn't it? That's about as level as we could get today, guys. Beautiful day here in Oklahoma. It's 24 degrees this morning, by the way, but it's 55 right now. 55. No, I take it back. I think it's 52. It's supposed to be 58 or 59 tomorrow. So, and then on New Year's Day is forecast to be, I think, 37 for a high. In the 20s in the low. But it is wintertime. It is where we are turning the year. January, February, normally the coldest month. And we get into springtime. And we will get into a situation where those deers will be dropping those antlers they have, and the new ones will start back immediately. But let's kind of look back a little bit and think about what's happened during 2023. If you go back to, well, just like a few days from now, but a year ago, the first few days of January, the deer were running around. The rut was pretty much over. We did have some rut action happen later because we had a pair of deer born in the pen, a pair of bucks. One lived, one died. In September, we'd never had that happen before. We also had 2 deer born in the pens here at the house where we have the white deer, the albino deer, as well as some brown deer. In August, we named one of them August. We named the other Tiny, the tiniest deer that we've ever had. And she's beautiful. She's doing great. She's living fine. August is living fine too. We did lose one of the 2 bucks there in the other pen, but a deer born in August and September. Now, we had a deer born in early July, like maybe the 4th of July or something, but that's really something. But we think back to some of the deer that we had that we've lost. We lost a few deer this year. We had a really difficult time with our babies this year. We didn't have nearly as many babies born, and we had a really hard time keeping them alive. I mean, just keeping them alive a few days. It wasn't some disease or something that attacked them. There was just something wrong with them when they were born. And I think that what happened is, if you will remember back to last year's rutting season, if you'll remember back to there, Forrest was injured really badly out in the wild, and we put him back in the pen. We got him and we doctored him a lot. I just put antibiotic after antibiotic. His butt, every time I get close to him, he'd run because he's afraid his butt's going to start hurting from me shooting him with a dart gun and injection of medicine. And you might say, well, why don't you just walk up there and put a needle in him? Well, he learned that trick real quick too, and he's not going to let me do that. So we had to use a dart gun even on him. But his back legs, you remember what those look like? And you remember me crawling under that deck over at my partner's house, Steve Wells' house, crawled under the back deck when he was into there, injured so badly, and I cut his collars off so they wouldn't be bothering him, and under that deck with him, just in putting myself in harm's way in a big time. He could have killed me right there, but he seemed like he knew I was helping him, and I just had to take the chance. And that collar got all wrapped around bad and stuff, and I just and I wanted to give him some food. I carried him some food under there and crawled under that deck and gave him food, cut that collar off, and we gave him shots for several days in a row, and by golly, he got well. And Forrest has been great. Now, you know, this year he's got his, I guess it's his second set of horns. 21, 2, 3, maybe his third set of horns. Yeah, maybe his third set of horns, but second or third set of horns. But he's a big, beautiful 10-point and just gorgeous and big body deer, huge neck. I've got a collar on him. You can't hardly see because it's just down in the fur in his neck. Well, come springtime, he loses antlers. I'll cut that collar off and try to put him a fresh one on. Hard to get a collar on him. That's a rodeo in itself, so we'll see what happens on that. But try to put a new collar on him that he can wear, you know, for another year. He was a dangerous deer. He never did try to attack me or Apache, but he certainly gave us some threatening looks, and he certainly he sort of challenged us a time or two. He never did charge either one of us, thankfully. He did charge another deer one time when I was feeding them both out of a bowl. I think it was Little Whitey, and I knocked a tripod over in doing it, and I jumped back up on the porch when that happened. But during the heat of the rut, when he was the, I guess you'd say, the fiercest or the wildest or the most engaged in the rut, I really stayed around him. I quit letting Chris go out in the yard and hand feed any of the deer during that period of time, and we got by without him hurting anybody. He can be a very dangerous deer, and we know that. He did kill at least one deer, perhaps two. We had two deer killed in fights. One was the deer we call fish hook, where his horns come over and sort of made a fish hook on both sides. Beautiful deer, born in the wild deer, not born in the pen. One is born in the wild. Probably had some Iowa blood in him from them big deers because he had some big heavy horns. Might have been his mama, might have been his daddy. I don't know. We got both. We got does and bucks both running around on the ranch that have the Iowa DNA, the Iowa strain in them, and that is what we're trying to accomplish here on the ranch, is get these big giant bucks to grow. That this big Iowa strain of bucks that we get from Dale Hagelin and Adam Hagelin up there at Hagelin Farms in Iowa, and they sell the very best deer in the nation. I mean, they're unsurpassed. They have world records in so many different deer, and they've got the albino deers where we got the albinos, and on their calendar last year, Prince Charming was on there with his beautiful rack. He didn't make the calendar this year because he busted everything off. But anyway, we had the two baby bucks. Speaking of albinos, the two baby bucks in the pens, and we watched their first set of antlers. Both of them had good ones. Casper had better antlers than Ice. Ice was the larger of the two deer, but you can't really tell all that much from their first horns, other than both of them had good horns, so we knew they was going to be good. We did lose Ice to Blue Tongue, another one of the deer we lost. The other deer that we lost out in the wild was a big 7x6. I think that deer was number 2006, which would be a brother, I think, that 2016 maybe. 2016, and I think that that would not be a brother, that would be in the same year class as Forrest, and just a big, beautiful 7x6. I think it was number 2016. I thought it was 16, which would give me I thought it was 2005 or 6, which would give me a possibility of even being Forrest's brother, but it wasn't. And but Forrest got fighting that deer when we saw blood on Forrest's horns, so we know he did it. He was in that area. He was also in the area where Fish Hook was killed. We saw them both alive earlier in the day, and we found Fish Hook dead quite several hours later. And we don't know that he was killed by Whitey, but it's very possible. I think that deer are probably like anything else. You know, if we're out hunting or fishing or doing whatever, fixing a car, doing whatever we're doing, and we find out something that works, we continue to do something that works. And he has learned how to fight and kill. And the fights that deer have during the rut, when they're using their horns and they're fighting, and a lot of them get killed by locking horns, they can't get loose, and they actually just end up dying of starvation and of thirst, really, about as much as anything. But you see videos show up here on YouTube and Facebook that TikTok that show people going out and cutting horns off with chainsaws or tree saws or something, and freeing deer that are locked together, and which is saving their life. I mean, that's a good thing to do. It's dangerous and exciting, but it's a good thing to do. But once a deer learns to charge and hit the body, and I actually saw in an episode we had where Prince Charming got out, and then trying to get Prince Charming back in the pen, Whitey came in, Forrest came in the pen, and Prince Charming came in there with him. And we had both of them in there, and I was afraid of Forrest killing Prince Charming. And sure enough, I was in there trying to get Forrest out, kind of a dangerous situation, Apache and I both, and he charged Prince Charming and actually hit him up on the front part of his body. And of course, Prince Charming didn't even have any antlers in; he'd broken them all off. So that was a pretty. It showed me that Forrest has learned to kill. So he knows that when he fights another deer, he's got the capability of killing that deer. And just once he gets a good hard deal and back behind that front leg, that's his heart's located there. Same place where a guy tries to put an arrow when he's bow hunting. And then once you stick a horn in that heart, a deer dies just pretty instantly, just like it would if we stuck a deer horn in our heart. We're going to die pretty instantly too. So Forrest has possibly killed 2 deer. One deer got injured severely when we put Forrest back in the pen. We put him back in there for a couple of reasons. One, to save his life, and hopefully to save some other lives. And then he kills Fishhook. If he did kill Fishhook, we don't know that for a fact. But if he did kill Fishhook, then after we let him out, and we let him out thinking that the rut was getting pretty close to being over, and we just want to get him out of that pen. And a doe was damaged pretty badly up there, but she had a lot of loose skin hanging and a lot of blood on her and a little hole in her throat. But it's possible that could have happened in some of that sheet metal. We've got sheet metal on the wires up there, fastened to the wires to give them some wind breaks in the wintertime on the north side. When it gets really, really cold, they can get behind that and get out of a little wind. The deer, when they're out in the wild, they get down a low spot and stuff and get out of the wind. But so we gave them that up there. So that deer's doing fine, by the way. She's recovering nicely, and she's bred, I'm sure, and probably have some babies this spring. But with all the medication we gave Forrest, all the medication we gave Whitey, which was the other deer that was in the pen, we had the deer separated where hopefully they were bred by either Forrest or Whitey. But with all of the medication we gave them last year during the rut, we think that might have hurt the offspring, and might have caused our higher than normal mortality rate in the pens. We didn't really have many deer to turn loose this year. But so we did lose a few deer. Little Whitey's gone right now. Lucky 13 we saw swim across the lake and come out right here by where I'm standing, a little bit about 20 yards over to the right there, or about behind us there that way. But saw that big buck swim the lake, lucky number 13, big beautiful buck. Second set of horns, giant horns, shake and come off. When we walk up through this way, I videoed that deer for quite a little bit that day. We have not seen that deer since. Now, whether it got out in the woods and got killed or whatever, I don't know. We did not find a body. Anytime we don't find a body, we just believe and have the hope that that deer's still alive somewhere. Little Whitey, I just believe, unless it's lost, gone across on the other side of the lake and got lost and can't find its way home, I just really believe that something's happened to that deer, or it's just totally lost, and it's doubtful it'll come back. And that's a shame, because I debated about letting that little deer out of the pens. And I do have Wild Child back in the pens now. Wild Child was one of the deer that got out in Jimmy's little escapade trying to go in there feeding carrots and let 2 of them out. But Wild Child has been out quite a bit. She's learned to live in the wild, and I'm going to wait until hunting season is totally over, and hopefully the rut is totally over, before I let her back out of the pen again, because I just don't want to lose that little girl. We will have some fawns come this spring, and we'll probably have to rescue 1 or 2 more. It seems like it happens every year, where you have 1 or 2 that if you don't save their life, they're going to die. But anyway, that's sort of a little bit of a recap of what's happened this year, and I'm sure I've left some deer out that both born and died and left, or just, but the good thing is, this whole thing that we've been doing, that we started 3 or 4 years ago here on Twin Eagle Ranch, is working. We have some very, very, very positive things happening also. What you see when we lose deer, you see deer that we lose right here around the house. Now, there are deer killed out in the wild too. This is not a huge ranch, but it is 2,000 acres. Our neighbors over there behind me to the east, 6,000 or 8,000 acres. My neighbors up there that join on the northern side of our ranch to the east, 6,000 or 8,000 acres. Total over on the west, 6,000 or 8,000 acres. So we're a pretty small piece of property here. As we go over on the cross the lake and the mountain and come over and go clear over the county road, there is one little place over there of a couple acres where a guy's got a house, and they shoot a lot over there. They do a lot of hunting. They probably kill some of the deer. And over on the far, you would say, southwest corner, there's people that hunt over there, and I've got a game ranger friend of mine over there, Ty, and Ty told me that on his game cameras, he did see a couple of my bucks over there. He said he wouldn't shoot them, and I'm sure he didn't. But so those bucks were over in land where there was quite a few hunters. So that's going to happen. That's going to happen. That said, we have a lot of big bucks running around on this ranch that I have only seen when I went out and sat in a deer stand. I didn't deer hunt at all this year. I've only deer hunted really one day, one evening in northern Oklahoma since Chris got sick. So that's 3 deer seasons. And because we're in to be number 33 months come January 5. But so we did hunt the ranch. Sherry's husband, Jack, took a really big, beautiful 10-point. I don't know what my partners over there, I haven't really talked to them. They've done some hunting, and I don't know what they might have taken off the ranch, but certainly need to take a few deer off the ranch. But I saw some deer when I was out there, that are big, huge deer that I've never seen before. Never seen before. No tags in their ears. Big deer. I had some big deer come this week, some that we showed you earlier on the Antlers, what we call it now, just call the Antlers videos, here on the ranch. And one big deer that had a tag, that deer's come off of somebody else's ranch, and just like some of our deer get over on theirs, some of our elk get over on theirs, some of their deer get over on his, so I guess it's all a wash one way or the other. But big, beautiful deer, but he had 3 other giant deer with him that was not tagged. That means that they didn't come from my breeding or the other breeding directly, but indirectly. When I say indirectly, that means from either the bucks or the does that we have freed and turned loose in the wild. And that's really what it's all about. Now, they do hunt quite a bit on the ranch over there, but they turn loose way more deer than they capture. I'm sure there's no doubt about that. But the breeding program is working. The varmint program, killing the coyotes, is working. I've said it before that most states estimate that coyotes kill between 40 and 48% of the baby fawns. 40%, 4 out of every 10, maybe 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10, more than that. We work on the predators hard on this ranch. We work on the coyotes, we work on the coons, we work on the skunks, the possum, things that are detrimental to deer, turkey, and fish. And we have a lot of deer, turkey, and fish, and a big part of it is that program of taking care of the critters, taking care of the predators, things that kill baby deer when they're young, things that destroy the nest of wild turkeys and destroy a whole nest of 10 or 12 or 14 baby chicks while they're still in the egg, before they're ever born, and things that eat fish out here like water turkeys. So we work on things, and otters, we trap otters a lot too. We trap otters, we trap coyotes, we trap the predators that are detrimental to the wildlife. And that can be done on every little piece of property anywhere. If you've got a little piece of property somewhere, even if it's only 50 or 100 acres, you trap the predators off of there, you're going to end up with more deer, more turkey. If you have quail, you're going to end up with more quail. You're just going to help everything when you get rid of those predators. The predators cannot be just normally taken care of in the course of time. There'll be people that say, oh, those poor baby, those otters, they're just so cute. Well, they're not cute. They eat tons of fish. And they say, oh, those little raccoons. Well, they destroy tons of turkey nests. They destroy tons of quail nests and any kind of eggs and nests they can get into. And they can crawl up trees, so they get songbirds that nest in the trees just as well. They'll destroy those nests and eat those eggs. So, and the problem is we've had over the time, a lot of times where people were trapping coyotes and raccoons and wolves and skunks and all that. and they were selling the fur. Well, that market has pretty much gone away with fall fur, fake fur, and so that market's gone away. There's very little trapping. So if the landowners or the property owners or the leaseholders don't do that, it's not going to be done, and you have an abundance of predators, and it really hurts your game, fish, and animal population. It really does. So wherever you are, if you've got a little piece of property, manage it. You can manage 50 acres, 100 acres. You say, well, everybody around me is not managing anything. Well, that's okay. But if you can get everybody that's got 50 or 100 or 200 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, and they manage it, everybody's doing that, the whole state gets better. That's what's happened in Alabama. You know, they manage all these little hunting leases and little private properties they had down there, and they have a deer season where you're allowed to kill, golly, tons of deer. I don't know how many, one every day or two every day or something like that. I don't know. They change the law from time to time. Here's another thing that you can do that'll help. If you're in an area or you're in a state that allows you to feed the wildlife, most of the states in the South allow you to do that. Even the states that do not allow you to hunt around a feeder still allow you to have a feeder out, but just not hunt around it. Sometimes you can't have it out during hunting season. Other times you can have it out in hunting season as long as you don't hunt within a certain area of it. So, but check the laws where you live. The northern states are a little archaic in the way that they have their laws. They're more like power grabbing, and they just want to make sure that they know the best. Nobody else knows anything. You know, it's with that kind of deal. So the northern states, it's sometimes you can't feed. You feed birds in a lot of those states. Sometimes you can't even do that. Probably, I don't know. But you can feed birds, and if you happen to have some deer come around or wild turkey come around, that's okay. But in most of the states in the South, you can feed them, and it helps, particularly in the wintertime. And I use Texas Hunter feeders that are made down in San Antonio, Texas. I've been using them for years and years and years and years. They're probably the best feeder on the market. And you can get solar powered ones where you don't have to worry about the battery, and you can just stand and dump feed in them. Don't have to crawl up on a ladder or hoist them up on a tripod or anything like that. So they're very simple and very easy. There's a lot of people in Texas that simply throw out feed. There are people out in Colorado with the mule deer that simply throw out feed around their house for the birds and the animals, and have big giant mule deer bucks coming around. I have some friends that have sent me pictures of these big giant bucks. They don't hunt. They would kill those deer if they did hunt, you know, because those big boys are hanging around their house, and they're enjoying them every single day. And so if you are at a place, live in a place where you can hunt, where you can feed the animals, do so. And if you can't afford to get a feeder of some sort, and just feeding wild birds, that's a cool deal too. Sherry and Jack have Texas Hunter feeders at their house, but they also have big bird feeders, and they got hundreds and hundreds of wild birds that come around. They get so much pleasure out of watching those birds. They're right outside their window. The guy that runs my production company, Pat Turner, been with me 30 years. Pat Turner feeds birds at their place there in Tulsa, and they have all kinds of, sometimes hawks come around and get right out their window, right outside their window, and all kinds of neat stuff that happens. And they live in Tulsa. They live in town. They live in a neighborhood. So feeding wildlife is a good deal if it's legal in your state. Now, don't get yourself in trouble, so you need to check your laws and make sure. And you might be able to feed birds, but not feed deer. So you put your bird feeders out, and if your deer come around or wild turkey come around and eat, that's okay. I don't know that they can do anything about that. You just got a bird feeder out. You don't have a deer feeder out. And so just like if you've got a piece of water, if you feed the fish, if you feed the bluegill, you're going to increase your bluegill population. It'll help your bass. Your fish will get bigger and more healthy, so have a fish feeder. So I use South Fresh Deer Food out of Decatur, Alabama. If you're anywhere around where you can use theirs is probably the best to use, but you can buy deer food and fish food anywhere. You can use corn. You can use scratch. You can buy your things you can get at Tractor Supply or your local farm store or whatever. But feeding the deer helps. Taking care of the critters really helps. We have the largest turkey population we've ever had here. We've got 40 some odd hens running around together right now. As the colder it gets, they segregate off, and hens are together, jakes are together, gobblers are together. Now there'll be a little mixture in some of that, but we saw a bunch of jakes, Chris and I did when we left about 10 days ago, probably had 25 jakes in it, 25. None of them had long beards. They're just all together. That may be all the 25 we have on the ranch. I don't know. They may not be here come springtime, but now I wouldn't hunt. I don't hunt jakes anyway, but I love calling jakes up to the decoy. I love to listen to them gobble. Some of them got pretty good gobbles, just like an old Tom. I've been fooled many times turkey hunting by hearing a big old Tom come up and gobble his head off. And once he walks up there, he's a Jake with a little old beard about that long. And I go, oh, I'm so disappointed. But I still had a lot of fun in it. So if you take care of the wildlife, they will provide you so much joy. And what we have here, using these Iowa bred deer, and when we bring them in, they've got papers on them. They're no CWD. They've been tested for everything. Goes through the agriculture department, so everything we bring in is 100% checked by the state of Oklahoma. Pretty much have to do that in any state. Some states you can't move deer in from other states. Some states you have to buy them from a deer breeder. But genetics can be changed by using embryos as well. In Texas, you can't take deer into Texas anymore. So what they're doing is selling embryos from, again, like Dale Hagelin, Adam Hagelin up in Iowa was selling the embryos, and they're implanting them down there in Texas, and they get the Iowa strain, the DNA of those big giant Iowa bucks in those Texas deer. So anyway, we'll be starting back hopefully with some videos next week that have some actual antlers on them, but I hope you enjoyed this little visit. We just visited. This is the last antler video, or watching giant antlers grow, or whatever we call it. We sort of been titling each one and not call them that anymore, just giving each one of them its own titles. These videos show on Friday and Saturday on Jimmy and Chris Houston's Twin Eagle Ranch channel. Make sure you're on the Catch a Better Life channel. Make sure that you're on the Jimmy Houston Outdoors Fishing channel. We just started, we spun that channel off. There's only a little over 10,000 people on there, but we post videos on there about 3 or 4 times a week. Lots and lots of great little short fishing tips that will make you a better fisherman. If you fish at all, you will enjoy Jimmy Houston Outdoors Fishing. Get on all 3 channels. Get on all 3 channels. Have a happy, prosperous, successful, and healthy. If you can have a healthy 2024, you will have won 2024, irrespective of what everything else happens. If you can have your health all the way through 2024, you have won 2024. And remember, guys and girls, I sure do love you.